let's talk about the last game on the slate, the Monday night game between the New Orleans Saints and the Las Vegas Raiders. Interesting game here with Michael Thomas being out. But overall, I don't think that's actually going to change the way that I feel about this game too much. Michael Thomas definitely is going to hurt the upside of the Saints, but they still have a pretty deep option or deep slate of skill position players there, and their defense is so dominant. I don't think it's really going to affect them too much. So decently high over-under in this one. I was actually a little surprised by the fact that this is 49 points. Maybe Vegas is a little bit intrigued by the amount of points the Raiders put up last week. But again, remind you that the Panthers are one of the worst defenses in the league, whereas the Saints are one of the better defenses here. So don't be surprised if this one comes nowhere near that over total, unless it's the Saints running up the score on the Raiders. I think you can start to hear the undertones of my voice that I don't believe in the Raiders, even though they won in week 1. They were playing the Panthers. Let's calm down. They have like 8 rookie starters on defense. That's a little hyperbolic, but it feels like that. So Saints are slated to win this one by 5.5. I'm taking the over in that one for sure, or I'm taking the Saints to cover for sure. Last week the Saints, were able to successfully slow down the Buccaneers there, made Tom Brady look pretty pedestrian, and maybe he is, but I think Tom Brady's going to show us this week that it was more the Saints defense than the Buccaneers offense that was floundering last week. So, we got Brees. I'm still comfortable starting Brees in this matchup, especially. The Raiders don't really have anything scary in the secondary there. I think Brees can still, even in a lower passing yardage week last week, he still put up 2 touchdowns. Almost had that third one with Emmanuel Sanders, just missed him. So I think Brees can still have a pretty solid game. Not going to have like a top 5 week or anything, but I think could still end up being a top 12 decent play for you. Obviously, you're starting Alvin Kamara. Don't need me to convince you of that. I think Emmanuel Sanders will see the majority of the target game usage with Michael Thomas out. And then this is a revenge game for Jared Cook, if you guys like those narratives. If you remember, Jared Cook played for the Raiders before, so Jared Cook could have himself a day here as well. And then the Saints defense, I think, is going to put up a lot of points against the Raiders. I'm just not a big believer in them at this point. Latavius Murray, I'm still not starting until we see him actually get a decent amount of usage. This is a Kamara show. And then Tre'Quan Smith. I want to pause and stop about Tre'Quan Smith for a bit because he definitely has upside. So Tre'Quan Smith is a guy who was talked about a lot in training camp, and I feel like that happens a lot. So maybe this is just a matter of he shows up in practice and doesn't show up during the game. But with Michael Thomas likely out, Tre'Quan Smith is going to definitely need to take a step up here. And I definitely think he's worth a stash on your bench. Probably don't need to jam him into your lineup unless you're playing like a Monday night DFS slate. But Traequan Smith definitely has upside here. Emmanuel Sanders has shown us in the past that he kind of slows down as the season goes on. And I wouldn't be surprised if eventually Traequan Smith becomes the number 2 receiver here. So this might be a nice way to actually like accelerate it and get him involved in the game plan a bit more. Obviously, expect them to use Taysom Hill a bit in this game. He's not someone that you can really consider starting because he doesn't have nearly enough guaranteed workload, but I still like the Saints offense a lot in this game. Now, on the Raiders side, this is where it gets a little hairy, and if you have Josh Jacobs, you're probably floored or through the roof with how he performed last week. Getting work in the passing game, which is something he never had done he got 6 targets last week. I don't think that happened a single time in 2019. Obviously 3 touchdowns, leading running back scorer on the week. Well, my issue with Josh Jacobs is the fact that from this point on until like December, his schedule is terrible against the run. I don't believe in the Raiders as a whole. I don't believe in Gruden to actually be able to lead this team to glory. So we're going to get a pretty decent picture at what Josh Jacobs actually looks like when he's playing against tougher defenses starting this week. So if you have Josh Jacobs, I was recommending that you try to sell at top dollar, get someone like Jonathan Taylor plus, try to trade for Dalvin Cook, try to trade for someone like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, someone that isn't convinced of their starter, even though they should be. And I think that would end up being a smarter play for you. But if you decide to stick it out with Jacobs, you're going to play him this week. Obviously, you can't ever consider benching him, but I'm highly concerned for the way that this game could potentially go. We will see how he is used in the passing game when the Raiders are getting beaten pretty badly. And I'm pretty sure, just based on the history of the way that the Saints play on Monday night, the way they play AFC teams, that the Saints will do pretty well in this game. If it ends up being a close contest, then we won't get that story told for us. But I'm pretty sure the Saints are going to win this one pretty handily. So we'll find out whether or not Jacobs is for real or week 1 was a mirage. You're obviously starting him, and hopefully it turns out well for you. I'm just nervous. Darren Waller as well, someone I'd definitely throw out there. He still saw the majority of his team's targets last week. I don't think that changes anytime soon. We saw O.J. Howard score a touchdown against the Saints last week. I think Waller gets in the end zone this one. Okay, Ruggs and Renfrow are the only receivers I'd be considering starting. Edwards was out there in a lot of snaps, but he saw very few targets. You're not going to start Nelson Aguilar by any means. Henry Ruggs had some of the most unrealized air yards this last week, and they were trying to use him all over the place. So I think Ruggs is a decent flex play. Not someone that I would force into my lineup, but if you need a potential upside play, I think Ruggs can definitely do that for you. Although the Saints are a much tougher defense than the Panthers, and then Renfrow was a bit of a disappointment last week, but I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back and does decent in this one. Not looking at anyone else's way for the Raiders, but overall, I think the Saints win this one very easily. I have the Saints beating the Raiders 28-12.